the new GLE63S. It's its fastest and most powerful GLE in the range and brings a huge V8 engine as well as a host of other mechanical upgrades. But given that this car has so many new competitors, can it still do what it takes to come out on top? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. If you're after a car with imposing looks, then the GLE63S has got to be one of the best choices out there. It's hard not to notice the huge Panamericana grille up front, the distinctive LED headlights, and around the back you've got those quad exhaust pipes which really showcase how much performance this car has on tap. The GLE63S gets the same basic cabin architecture as the regular GLE, and that's to say it's a very nice place indeed. You've got a really big widescreen setup ahead of you consisting of infotainment and climate control functions and your main dials and readouts ahead of you. Elsewhere, we've just got a lot of buttons. Down here, we've got controls for the exhaust, for the suspension, for the gearbox settings. You've got more climate control functions up here. And you've got a multi-function steering wheel, which has your cruise control, your volume, more adjustable engine settings and gearbox settings. And these are via configurable screen type buttons. So the button setup can be a little bit confusing, and there's a lot going on, so that when you're on the move, it can be a bit of a struggle to remember which one to go for at any particular time. However, the overall build quality is excellent, the steering wheel is really pleasant, and it all feels rugged and well put together, which is a refreshing change from some older Mercedes models, which just fell a bit short in this area. Overall, a great place to be, and really appropriate given the over £100,000 price tag. As you might expect from quite a large SUV, the rear seat space that you get in the GLE is very good. There's loads of legroom and loads of headroom too, plus the fitment of a panoramic roof and lots of glass means that the interior of the cabin is quite bright, and that's necessary considering when you have a black leather upholstery. It means that you can often feel a little bit cocooned, a little bit isolated in the cabin, but all of that glass helps to lift that feel overall. Elsewhere, we've got some nice touches. We've got individual heater controls for these rear seats. We've got some nice mood lighting along the side, which helps to lift the overall feel of the cabin. And they've also got a USB-C socket down there for charging your devices and a small area for some storage. Overall, a great place to be. If you're after a performance SUV with plenty of boot space, then the GLE63S will more than fit the bill. Now, as standard, it's got 630 litres, but fold those rear seats down and that rises to 2,055 litres, and it's got a really square entrance with a low load lip too, so it's going to be really practical, really useful for bigger items. Now, AMG has a habit of making cars more powerful than they really need to be, and that's certainly the case with the GLE63S. It's got 612 brake horsepower from its bi-turbo 4-litre V8. It's also got 800 Newton-meters of torque, which means that this massive SUV will do 0 to 60 in around about 3.5 seconds and will carry on to 155 miles an hour flat out. That is ludicrous performance from a car this big. It's just astounding, really, how quickly this car gets up to speed, and it does so with such little fuss as well. Of course, Mercedes has engineered the GLE63 with a really pleasant exhaust note, and it's an exhaust note that I feel isn't going to be a familiar sight on the new car scene for very much longer, but while we've got it, we've got to enjoy it. So we've got an optional exhaust button there as well to make it even louder, and when you do, you get a car that sounds, well, just fantastic. Now, the GLE63 has been fitted with a 48 volt starter generator, which is aimed to bring some added performance, fill in those gaps in torque, and aid economy too. Though despite that, and despite it being able to close off a bank of cylinders when cruising, you're still looking at around 20 mpg, but what did you expect? It's a V8 powered SUV. Given all that power, it's actually surprisingly easy to drive the GLE in quite a well-mannered, normal way. Alright, it's not quite as comfortable as the regular version, and we are sitting on some massive alloy wheels, but the adjustable dampers mean that you can soften off the ride, and in comfort mode it's not too bad. On lanes it feels a little bit firm, and on the motorway, if you do hit a big bump in the road, it really does send a shock through, but overall, for such a performance-orientated vehicle, it's pretty good. It's actually almost hilarious how quick this car gets up to speed, and the noise it makes is just fantastic. You can never grow tired of that. I think you might grow tired of being at the petrol station every other day, but that's kind of the the gamble you take or the risk you take with a car like this. You have to be aware that the fuel costs are going to be pretty massive. But this straight line performance is also backed up by really nice steering. It's got good weight to it. It's got a reasonable amount of directness through the wheel. And as I said, you can adjust the ride, and in its firmest setting, there's loads of support and the car really doesn't want to roll around at all, which is a contrast to what you might expect from such a big SUV. Particularly against cars like the X5M, this feels a lot more comfortable and a lot more refined, and that means that if you are using it every day, it's not going to prove tiring and it's not going to cause you any grief over long journeys or long distances. Of course, then all the fundamentals of the regular GLE are still present, so the visibility is good, the cabin, thanks to plenty of glass, is nice and airy and light, and the overall fit and finish is good too. So it's quite clever that you're building on what is already a good product and a good car, and just throwing in some really astounding performance and some great mechanical upgrades too. Of course, all of this added performance and added agility does come at a cost, and GLE, well, you're looking at around £112,000 to begin with before you've added any extras. But given it a resounding package and how it can outpace many supercars yet bring the whole family along for the ride, that might be a good value proposition for some buyers. Also consider that this is the same engine that you get in Aston Martin's DBX, and that costs considerably more than this car and doesn't offer a whole lot more in terms of agility or performance. It just never fails to put a smile on your face, this engine, regardless of which AMG it's in. You know, you've seen it in the E63, in the C63, G63, GLE63. It really is a true performer and just a fantastic engine that I really do feel has relatively numbered days, and certainly in the new generation of C63 we're going to not see this V8 making an appearance, and that's a very sad thing indeed. The GLE63S is just another example of how well made Mercedes-AMG cars are. Despite it being practical and spacious and relatively comfortable, it offers the type of performance that puts many supercars to shame, and that means that it injects a little bit of fun and excitement into everyday driving wherever you are. Despite having so many rivals, the GLE63S is still one of the very best high-performance SUVs out there.